The biggest refugee crisis that Jesuit Refugee Service is facing still is the Syrian crisis. Many refugees have gone to Turkey, some to Iraq, thousands to Jordan, thousands to Lebanon. So the Syrian crisis is the biggest, that we're trying to respond. And in Lebanon we have primary schools, secondary schools, preschools. We run hairdressing courses, courses for nails. We have adult literacy, because a number of the people, mainly women from Syria, from the country, never learned how to, didn't go to school, didn't know how to read. So we've got adult literacy programs, we've got accelerated learning programs, those sorts of things. So. In Jesuit Refugee Service, we have 204,000 students, preschool, primary, secondary, post-secondary, adult education, accelerated learning programs, literacy programs, livelihoods programs. So we've got many programs, and we've 204,000 students, from little ones up to adults. But I'd like to tell you a story, though, a success story. In Malawi, there was a young woman. She had come from Rwanda. Her name is Mireille. And Mireille, in 1994, when the genocide began in Rwanda, Mireille's father was killed. So her mother and her mother's mother and her grandfather fled into Congo, and there her mother died. So when she was little, she just had no mother, no father, looked after by her grandparents, and they went south to Malawi. They started walking, and they got to Malawi, and then her grandmother died, so she just had her grandfather. But when she went to school, she did very well. She went to the Jesuit school, so we got her a scholarship to go to a local school, and she got in the top 5 of the Malawian school certificate, the final exam. She was in the top 5, and she got a scholarship to study medicine in China, but she couldn't go because she didn't have Malawian citizenship. So we went to the Malawian government and we organised for her to get citizenship. She went as like an 18-year-old, went to China. She learnt Mandarin and she studied medicine, and then she came back. She got on a bus, went back to the refugee camp to work, and now she's working for us. She's doing her medical work, but she also works for Jesuit Refugee Service as sort of an ambassador. She goes around and talks to people and all that. And she's just a little person like this, smile. You wouldn't think, she's smart, very intelligent lady. She's great. She's 24 now. Yeah, so Mireille. So the thing I like to think, in Jesuit Refugee Service, we are not doing anything extraordinary. It's not extraordinary. It's ordinary. It's ordinary preschool, ordinary primary school, ordinary secondary school, just so, but good quality, you know, just so people have an opportunity to make something of their lives. Because I think social justice is that you have every opportunity to make something of your life. So that's what we want to do for refugees. We want to help them to heal from the trauma, and we want to them to be in schools. Schools provide structure. If you can get a child who's become a refugee into school within a month, and then they have classes to attend, they have timetable, have homework, it provides security for children. Put structure in their lives, gives them a goal to move towards. So we see education as not just education, but it's also a humanitarian intervention, because it's got a psychosocial aspect to it. Yes. This is sometimes in a refugee camp, there's lots of money coming in, lots of help, and sometimes the people in the refugee camps have better than the neighbours. Let's take Malawi. So we've got a big school in Malawi, 4,700 students in the primary, 4,700, it's massive. But we integrate Malawian children and Sudanese or people from Rwanda or Ethiopia. They all learn together, and they learn in the Malawian language. They learn with the Malawian curriculum, and we've got Malawian teachers that we pay. So this is integration. We're trying to integrate refugees into the local community. People have this idea that somehow hundreds of thousands of refugees are getting into boats and coming to Europe. It's not the case. Very few ever get accepted in Europe and the States compared to the numbers. There are 67 million refugees and displaced people at the moment. 67 million refugees and forcibly displaced people. They are people who are forcibly displaced, but they're still in their own country. Okay, refugees are those who've had to go across the border. So it's about 24 million refugees, and the rest are forcibly displaced. So most of them stay in the second country. They're not going to the United States. They're not going to Australia. They're not going to New Zealand. They're not going to Europe. They're staying in Malawi, or they're staying in South Africa, or they're staying in Cameroon. I don't know. Huh? So this is a misconception. Yeah. Accompaniment, first and foremost, accompaniment is about listening. So it's not about what you do so much, but accompaniment is, I listen to you, I hear your story, you feel heard. Because people don't need me or to fix up their problems. They can fix up, often they can fix up their own problems. But they do need to know that somebody cares, that somebody knows them, that someone is their friend, that someone is walking with them, that they're not forgotten. So accompaniment, how would I say it? It's surrender. Surrender to the other person. It's I can do nothing for you, but I'm with you. So it puts the emphasis on being rather than doing. Yeah. The artist creates a big picture. This is what we want to do. Okay, and then I would say perhaps Monica is a craftsman or an artisan, a craftsman, so she would make it happen. And then the technocrats, they're the people who look after the accounts, make sure all the names of the students are there, all their grades are there, all the levels are there, and this student's done English, French, mathematics, Spanish, geography. It's records, it's keeping records, it's making sure we've got enough money, we've got enough resources, how much is the new school going to cost. So the artist is not very interested in that. The artist says, we need to do more. I think I'm more an artist. We need to do more for preschool. We need preschool teachers. Every child needs to have preschool. And then the craftsman comes along and says, how are we going to do that? And then the technocrat says, and how much is it going to cost? Where are we going to get the money from? So it's more sort of, it's realistic. This is, the artist is more inspirational. But you actually need an artist. You need an artist. The artist looks at the world and sees the world in a slightly different angle. That's a very good question. I think the human beings, we always need to be converted. We need to be converted in a religious sense, and we need to be converted intellectually, and we need to be converted affectively, our hearts, and we need to be converted socio-politically. I'll give you an example. People say things like, the poor could get ahead if they just worked harder. It's not true. They can't. They can't get a job, they can't get a bank account, they can't get a credit card. There's so much, but people have these sayings, if I just have to work harder and they'll get ahead. No, they need help. So if you can help your students to encounter the poor, the handicapped, people with disabilities, people with mental illness, people who are poor, refugees, displaced people. If you can help your students in a program of encounter, where they don't go to do something but they just meet people and they hear the other side. Because the trouble with being wealthy and the trouble with having privilege is that you can be blind to the poor. You just don't see it. We won't let yourself see it. I like the story of Dives and Lazarus. You know, in the Gospel, Dives, Lazarus is sitting at the door and he has sores all over him. And he's sitting at Dives' door, and the dogs come and they lick his sores. You know that? The dogs come and lick his sores. And Dives doesn't see it. And he goes to hell. But he did nothing wrong. Dives did nothing wrong. He did nothing. He did nothing. That's the point there. He did not see this poor man. So if you can help your students to see the poor, that brings about affective conversion, intellectual conversion, religious conversion, socio-political conversion. That changes hearts. But you've also got to leave people free. You know, we can't force people. You know, this is an invitation to do something to change the world.